Hi folks, you're with Tat today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a few things been doing the rounds recently. It's to do with younger women, I suppose, early 20s, I guess, mid-20s, talking about their travails and challenges with dating and getting a date, and by extension, I assume, they can get laid. The arguments they put forward are they can't find guys who are of a high enough standard, or don't meet their standards, and thus they're sort of going without. Now, I don't know whether they can say, well, the guys aren't a high enough standard, but no one's asking me out anyway. No one's hitting on me for a date, so I'm not sure how the rationale works there. And it seems to be, I'm angry about not getting a date, so I'll just blame everything regardless. So, but I just want to talk a little bit about some of the realities or lack of it, and how that feeds into the wider sort of feminist narrative of race and gender hustling, which of course the globalists are heavily promoting all over the Western world today, whether it be women's soccer teams being too white. But that's not a problem for the African teams. They can be all black, nothing wrong with that. It's only in white countries, if they aren't diverse, then that's somehow criminal or evil. So again, you can see the globalists' fingerprints all over this, the race and gender hustle propaganda and ideology. Coming to I've had we've had a few friends that kind of got divorced recently, or they've ended longer term relationships, and they've been in their sort of 40s maybe, and or even early 50s, I guess. And they're looking at, they've been going back into the dating thing, the game is on again and all this sort of thing. Just listening to them talking about the challenges of it, particularly with things like, say, the online dating scene, which seems to be, best I can tell, at least the rage today. I'm probably a little different. I'm someone who's got no problem with going up to a lady that I see, who I think, looks attractive, or that I'm interested in, saying, look, if you're interested, I'm happy to sort of have that conversation. I've got no problem doing that, but not many people can do that, I've found. I think it's the normal and natural way to do it, but the online thing, I guess, is that at least people are declaring their availability online, so you don't have to wonder about, well, maybe they're already in a relationship, or maybe they're married, or maybe they're, gay, or so. You don't have to think about those things. They're already, well, supposedly declared. But certainly talking to the women and some of the men that have got into this online stuff, is they're saying that the hottest looking men or women, depending on where you're coming from, they don't exist. These online sites sprinkle their supposed members with fake online profiles of people that just don't exist. So the super hot babe or the super buff hot guy, they're fiction. So they're just not real. They're just there to make the website look like, wow, this is definitely the place to go and get the hot chicks or whatever. But it's not. They just don't exist. So, but looking at what is it that women want and their sort of complaints. Now, you see this even with women that are divorcing or have divorced, and they're out again. They're looking for, they may not necessarily looking for romance or marriage. Maybe they're just looking for hot sex or something. But nonetheless, they're out sort of wanting to interact with the wider universe. But what are their requirements? And the idea is that, well, he has to be 6 foot or plus. Well, why? You're only 5'2". Why do you need so? Oh no, I want a man who's 6 foot tall. Well, he has to be really smart. Has to be high IQ. Okay, has to be a high income man. He has to at least make X amount of dollars. I don't want some guy who's divorced. He's got to pay alimony and child support. He wants enough money to spend on me, and it has to be all about me. Okay. He has to treat me like a princess, and he has to take me out to nice places. And when it comes to, he has to buy me expensive gifts, or else I'm not interested, and so on and so forth. So the expectation level is just, it makes even the most even the most wishful thinking look tame. Why? Okay, let's suppose you believe you're entitled to that, or you should have it, or that's what you want, or what you wish for, and it is a wish list. It's not not based in any reality. Why should they? Oh, I think I'm worth it, and you'll get some tooty little sort of toss of the head, or they'll start playing with their hair or something. And okay, well, all right. Let's look at this. You want a man who earns X amount. Now, firstly, there's less than 10% of the population make that sort of money, and roughly half of those, give or take, are women. So you're looking at, say, 5% of men are making that sort of thing. So you've got only 1 in 20 men meet that criteria. All right, let's look at your other criteria. He's got to be over 6 foot. Well, only a certain amount of population are in that category. So you've gone from 1 in 20 to 1 in 56 people, men have that requirement. Then you want them to be bright and to spend their money on you. Then you want them to like you. They have to be interested in you. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. So let's assume that there's going to be some of those are married, some are. So then you're only looking at single men who'd be interested in you. So now you're looking at sort of 1 in every 275 men out there. That's your shooting range. And that assumes that again, they like you and they're prepared to have a relationship with you. When you say, I demand you take me out to an expensive restaurant and stamp your foot and have a tantrum, if they say no, then you look at, well, maybe 1 in every 275 men, and even that's a bit ambitious. So when you explain that, they a bit like any reality that wish list people and simple people sort of go, oh, what's wrong? Why? I'm worth it. I'm worth it. I'll just sit here and sulk until my Prince Charming comes along. Well, reality has a sobering effect on people. There's so many young women today that even in their mid-20s or even their 30s, that they sort of have the minds of children. It's insane. The placard wavers at the fucking climate change protests and so on. They've still got this infantile world where they imagine this fantasy world. It's just insane. There's no reality. And going to university and being indoctrinated in the various globalist thought programs, of course, is key to a lot of this. Now I'll go back to a lady that I knew who she was I'm about 6'2", and she was my height, and she was an athlete, and she's PE teacher or physical education teacher at school. And so she was caught up in that teacher type left-wing bullshit thing. But she insisted that I first, I don't know, she'd probably be mid-20s, I suppose, when I first met her. And she's part of a group of people that I knew. And she insisted the man had to be taller. So I want to wear heels. So the guy has to be 6'4" plus. He has to have this, and this. And I remember explaining it to her that she's probably looking, given her criteria, there'd be less than 1 in 1,000 men that are in her shooting range. So given those odds, her chances of meeting someone ever in her lifetime are pretty slim. And she had a few intimate relationships with some of these big islander men who are quite tall and solid, but it was sort of straight sex only, and she didn't want to have anything to do with them outside of that. But if she was going to get laid, she kind of had to sort of draw them in. But she said that, well, look, they don't count really, because I don't want to have anything to do with them other than to get laid. So she did that, but after a few years later, where I remember sitting down having a coffee with her, and she was saying, well, she's going to have to, reality was biting, and she was going to have to, and by now she's like 27 or something, and she's going to have to become more realistic, and she's going to have to accept that the sort of men that she wish lists into existence actually don't exist, or there are so few of them, and they have to like her, that So she said, well, I'll accept, instead of wanting a man who's minimum 6'4", I'll accept someone who's my own height. Now, she considered this to be a crushing concession to make to reality, as it means she can't wear high heels because she doesn't want to be taller than the guy. I don't want to come across as some huge woman. I think, and I was saying, hey, well, you're 6'2" and you're a super fit physical education teacher that weighs 200 pounds. You can't pretend that you're a small little sort of waif of a girlie. No matter what you do, it's not going to work. Well, if I've got a big guy and a guy's much bigger than me, that'll make me seem like a smaller woman. No. You have to be comfortable with yourself to at least some extent. And she was quite a good-looking lady, like everything in proportion. She's very fit and all that sort of stuff. But no. So she was making minor concessions. Well, I'll accept that the guy's not really that bright, provided he's not dumb. Well, I'll accept if he's not making a huge income, provided he's making enough for me to live the lifestyle I want as I spend his money for him. And that, so she was making a few concessions, but she was bitter about having to make those concessions. She shouldn't have to. There should be a vast supply of men that I can wish list into existence. And it's this idea of wish listing things into existence, like you wish list that Nazis are everywhere, so you have to fight them. You wish list that the world's coming to an end, and you wish and wish, and so there's so much of the globalist controlled sort of human interaction at all sorts of levels now, which is really wish based, that these things don't exist. There's the pretense that so many things exist that actually don't. Coming back now to the idea of women with small women, particularly small women want tall men. Now, there's some sort of idea, well, I'm only a little tiny woman and there's lots of bad things there, so I need a big, strong, hairy-chested man to protect me from all those other men. I'll give him sex, and in return, he beats up all those other men for me, or something like that. It's again a sort of a snotty-nosed princess type view of things, but I don't know what the attraction is for tall men to have tiny women. Maybe that makes them feel big and tough. But look, the women are saying, well, I'm only 5'2", but I want a guy who's over 6 foot. He's got to be a big, strong guy, and all these sorts of things. And if he's not, then I'm not interested in a relationship. The guy has to have these things. Now, invariably, reality will bite at some point, and so they'll have to come to grips with that reality, be they bitter at that stage or not. But the idea that the guy has to have all these things and must have, otherwise I'm not going to date the guy. They don't seem to these women don't seem to have a view that they have to bring something to the table. Either they're hot looking, or they've got something, or they're going to inherit lots of money, or they're going they have to bring something to the table themselves. But they don't perceive they have that responsibility. I let him have sex with me, in return he has to give me everything. But ideologically, if you look at every advert for the oppression of women in relationships, it's always depicted the huge man and the tiny woman. That's always the depiction. She's fighting back. She's fighting back against the oppressor, because he's huge and he's big. All right, then, well, why do you want to date someone that big? So many women insist on dating much taller guys, much heavier guys. Guy's got to be a good job. He's got to this and he's got to be that. But if he earns more money than her, then the feminist ideology says, well, he's the oppressor. He's got more money than she has. White people have more money than black people. Men have more money than women. Therefore, it's oppression. The thing that is it. Sorted. The debate's over. That is oppression. So in that Marxist style of viewing the world. So she's oppressed, one, because he makes more money than she, even though that was her express intent of choosing a relationship. He must make more money than he must make enough money for me to be able to live the lifestyle I want at his expense. Then it's, well, he must be bigger than me. He must be tall. He must be over 6 foot, because that makes me kind of feel protected and So, but both these things are the key components of what the feminist and the Marxist globalist controlled legal system will say. Well, he's an oppressor. Look, he's taller and bigger than her. He makes more money than her. He's fucking Hitler. So why isn't there a law out there saying, well, if you have a relationship with, or to women, you have a relationship with or marry or whatever, anyone who's taller or heavier than you or makes more money than you, you'll go to prison. or vice versa. You know, the man, if you dare date someone smaller than you, then that's it, you'll go to prison. So it'll have the benefit of lowering the overall height of the population, lowering the IQ of the population. There'll be all sorts of benefits with this, but it means that there won't be divorces or relationship breakups or violence within relationships based on someone being bigger than someone else, as in physically larger, or having some sort of control in the relationship based on a higher income, those sorts of things. So maybe that's something to think about. But it's ironic that women insist on having, many women, not every single one, many women insist on having the very things that the feminist ideology, the Marxists will say, that makes them oppressed victims, even though they consciously chose to do that. Now, you could say they're conspiring because you get a bunch of women thinking, oh, no, we want 6 foot tall men on high incomes. No, they're not going to get it because there just simply aren't enough men to go around. And the women who particularly are making insistences on this, so, I look at them and think, well, you can't offer anything. I mean, you're not even hot looking, or, you're not even pleasant, or you don't have a particularly pleasant disposition or kind and generous, gentle attitude. So what the fuck are you going to give somebody in return for these wish lists or these things on your wish list? So, but on the overall scheme of things, looking at the success or non-success of say women who've got, we know the women who got divorced over the last few years and their attempt at relationships, they can. I'd say none of them have been successful at it, assuming success. I mean, there's one I'm thinking of now, and she definitely wants a relationship, but she doesn't want a divorced man because it's too many complications. He's got kids, he's got to pay alimony. He's, if his ex-wives are being difficult, he's constantly got court dramas and access dramas, and that affects his ability to give her his 100% attention. So she only wants a man that can give 100% attention to her and nothing else, and spend all his money on her and that type of thing. So, but looking at her success, she's not prepared to get involved with guys that are divorced, unless the kids are grown up and gone away. But she's not at an age where that's likely to have occurred. She's not prepared to date guys that want to date other girls at the same time, whereas she wants the right to date other guys at the same time. So I don't know about how this goes. She's got she wants to date guys who are younger than her. They have to be fit, and they have to be this, and have to be that. She's reasonably fit, by the way. She's in reasonably good condition. So, it's not like she can't bring anything to the table. But nonetheless, she says it's just such hard work trying to get dates and get laid to even sort of half decent, in her view at least. And I wouldn't say her requirements are exceptionally out of the ballpark. They're ambitious, but not sort of over the top, I don't think. If she lowered them a little bit, she could probably do better. But anyway, that's the view. So she's, after doing this for must be 18 months or something now, she's quite exasperated that she can't sort of get any traction with anything, and is thinking of giving the whole thing up. And again, that's not somebody with outrageously unrealistic views. Just on the issue of why can't people get laid or standards and so on. Just making a comment. I was last summer. I was down at a beach on a really hot day. Everyone's in their bathing costumes and so on. And there must have been, I don't know, 1,000 people on the beach. And there's a whole range of people, older people, young families, kids, and people in middle age. There's a whole range of people there. But sort of looking at even, so I walked down the beach, which is, I don't know, over a kilometre, I suppose, and walked down the beach, and I thought, well, how doing the old schoolboy thing, the school kid thing of how many of the women in the age range you see that you would fuck, that type of thing. And this is on looks only. You don't know them or talk to them or anything. So looking at what I assume is sort of 20 to, I don't know, over 18 or and looking at whatever age. And out of the hundreds of women sort of on the beach, there was one I would, maybe two maybes, and that was it. And I there were so few out of the women on the beach. There were so few women who were fit, even amongst the younger ones. So women who were fit and looked like they were taking some sort of pride in their appearance and this sort of stuff. And I was quite sort of staggered by that small number. So if I, which I wasn't, but if I'd been a sort of a single guy on the make, there's maybe only one woman I'd have bothered to hit on for a date in that whole beach. And that's a wow. I mean, I'm thinking, well, am I unrealistic? But nonetheless, so I don't think there's much talent out there generally. And once you get beyond the idea of where you have to cooperate to survive, and this is where a lot of marriages actually come from, you look at dependability and reliability in a partner, a marriage partner, and subsistence living, particularly agricultural, it was important. You had someone who's dependable who could help you bring in the harvest and plant the crops and milk the cows and whatever else. So the dependability and reliability and someone of sturdy physical constitution, this sort of thing you would look for. And so there were requirements that were very practical and reality based. And we've clearly got away from that to people that just look hot or they've got maybe they're wealthy or something like that. But I've hit on, as a younger man, I've hit on girls and gone out to, sat down at a coffee with and go, oh, gee whiz, no, thanks, pass on that. Thank you, Billie Jean. I'll and that's the end of it, because they seem like, to my way of thinking, quite unpleasant people. But the requirements of I think that's the curve is actually going back to, or in the process of moving back to, a situation where because of the loss of purchasing power that the globalists are inflicting on us. There's nothing organic about it. It's been inflicted on us by the globalists. The loss of purchasing power means there's fewer and fewer people that can live independently or even contemplate it. And so the things you're going to look for in a partner aren't whether the guy's 6'2", or whether this or whether that, or whether the girl's got a cute ass or something. It's not going to be that. I think more and more it's going to move towards, when we live communally, which we're going to have to as a society, we won't be able to live independently. And the amount of people that can do that is shrinking by the day. So this need to live communally is just going to introduce a level of reality into relationships where dependability and reliability and sober habits and all sorts of things like that are going to be very important, or more important than they are now. And I think it'll change the very structure of relationships and what people look for in their partners and what they value and deem as useful. I'm aware of relationships that where the partners seem to work in opposition to one another, and you see how much it saps the energy and the value out of the relationship when that happens. It's a lady I used to work with where she perceived a relationship with her husband as a competition as to who was actually in control, who had the real power, and she was very much into this. So if he bought a new suit for his work, then he wasn't just buying a new suit to it. He was actually challenging her power and her position in the relationship. She worked, so didn't make as much money as he did. I mean, she made half as much as he did, but to her, she had to spend equal to him, and that was a demonstration of the equality she perceived. So, well, hold on, he makes twice as much as you do. Why do you have to spend the same amount as him? Oh, because I have to go, because he can't just treat me like a doormat. If he buys a suit without me buying something of equal value, then he's oppressing me. He's a Nazi and that sort of thing. So she was constantly fighting him, as if everything he did was somehow a threat to her position and her power. And she wasn't just being a difficult shit, which she was. I'm just sticking up for myself. I'm fighting back against Hitler. And she took that view. Well, if you think your partner's Hitler and oppressing you, why did you even get together with him in the first place? And so that she was super competitive in almost every aspect of the relationship, to the point where she had to do the opposite of what he did. So, if he tried to plant flowers in the garden, she would pull the flowers out, because him planting those flowers meant he was somehow oppressing her. So she had this interesting sort of view of things. And really, unless the partners are working together for the common good of the relationship, and if they've got children, for the children, unless they're very dedicated to the success of the relationship and the success of the family unit, which I would argue they're not currently across the Western world, then they're almost ensuring the degradation of society. And very much part of this is the race gender hustle, particularly the gender hustle that goes on. It's tearing Western fabric, social fabric to pieces, I believe. But I think that will naturally come around as people have to collaborate in groups, and that reliability will become the key thing rather than anything else. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.